Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Loudguns, and in this episode we're going to be looking at building back better after the wipe as a solo player. I'm planning to do another video about building back as an org or a group of players after we've had a bit more time to conduct some proper testing of different strategies. Now, personally I think wipes are a great thing, as long as they're balanced in such a way that players aren't constantly running the early game. It's useful from time to time to be thrown back to a starting point. So if this is your first wipe, it might seem like it sucks to lose all your progress, but I choose to view it as an opportunity to learn to rebuild. Avoid some of the pitfalls of your previous run, don't waste the AUEC on that ship you bought but never use, and take the time to refresh yourself on some of the activities you maybe haven't done in a while. Essentially, knowing what you know now, what's your plan going to be for going in fresh? And if you're a bit lost in that regard, then that's the point of today's episode, to try and help you put a bit of a strategy together. So while in today's episode we're going to talk about how to build back solo, maybe the thing you want to do differently this time around is play with other players. Star Citizen's great and all, but to me it really comes alive when you play as part of a group. So if you're just struggling to find people to hang out with, then please feel free to come and say hi over on Discord. I've dropped the link in the video description down below, and we've got a really great community if that's the sort of thing you think you might be looking for. And finally, just before we get going, if you've been considering giving Star Citizen a go, now is looking like a really good time. So there's currently a free fly on, so you can sort of sign up to an account and you'll be able to download the game and try it out for free. And with everyone wiped back to their starting position, it's likely that the verse is going to be a bit more frenzied as we go into 3.15. So if you do create an account, even for the free fly, just make sure to use someone's referral code, as it'll get you a bit of extra starting cash and benefit them too. I'll flash mine up on screen in case you're low on friends who play Star Citizen. But if you've got a buddy who already plays, then just ask them for theirs and make sure you use that. So without further ado, let's get cracking. So a big thanks to Wormskull, one of the Frontier Consolidated captains, for popping together this graphic of our starting recommendations. So this is going to be a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but if you're a newer player looking for any info on how to do any of this, check out the new Players Handbook mini-series that I'll link in the video description. That will take you through with a step-by-step guide for doing each of these activities, so don't worry if you sort of think it's going too quickly for you in this episode. But as things stand in the game now, the best two career paths from an income perspective are bounty hunting and mining. By all means, feel free to mix and match, and also feel free to go at your own pace. You don't need to be trying to rush getting back on your feet, but I'm just assuming for the purposes of this episode that you're looking to kind of min-max and get yourself a bit of a hangar filled again. I'm also going to assume that you're in a starter ship, because if you can do it in a starter ship, you can do it better with any other ships you've got in your hangar. So the first stop for me is usually the halt illegal surveillance or unauthorized surveillance detected missions, because they can be accomplished in an Aurora or a Mustang. You can pick these up from the mercenary tab of your contracts manager when you're around Crusader or Hurston. And yeah, 20k each, these are quite a nice place to start, and if you're just getting into the verse and sort of learning to fly around, they can be a useful sort of intro to the game. Initially, it can be a bit tricky sort of getting used to the scanning to locate these monitors that you have to destroy. So just take your time with it, and I'd suggest sort of getting 2 or 3 of these at least under your belt to get yourself to 40 to 60,000 credits in the bank. But you could stop and do more if you just want to get the feel for flight controls, combat controls, that sort of thing. But if you're just looking to min-max, getting yourself back into the game from a complete wipe, just one of these would be enough to get you going with the bounty hunting tree, and 2 or 3 of these would be enough to get you going with mining. So if you've got yourself a Nomad or a Cutty or any other ship that can fit a rock, the little mining buggy, then you can jump straight into the mining career path from the first minute, since the rock is dirt cheap to rent. But if not, then you want to hit up one of the Vantage rental terminals at any of the refinery stations. Rent yourself a Grey Cat Rock for 4,300 AUEC. And then also grab yourself a Cutty Black for 34,632. The Cutty is a great sort of ship to get going with, but mainly for this, you want it for the ability to carry a vehicle in the back there. So this setup is going to allow you to mine gem nodes. But remember, if you're looking to build your cache back up quickly, focus in on hadonite and avoid dolvine and aphorite. If you want to be particularly min-maxy, then don't bother stopping for small clusters of 1 or 2 rocks. Just the time that you take to land, jump out of your seat, switch into the rock, mine, and load it all back up again. It isn't worth it in my experience for less than 3 nodes worth, so if you stop for lots of 1s and 2s, you can really sort of hurt your credit income per hour. I'd also really suggest at the start that you don't get too greedy in the rock. Server instability is your enemy, and with a fresh start, pirates might be more active than usual. So only fly around with what you can afford to lose without throwing your keyboard out the window and disappearing off to lose at League of Legends. Not that I'm speaking from personal experience there at all. So once you've made about 2.5 million credits, it's time to move up in the world to a prospector. Equip that with an Atlas QT drive and a Lancet MH1, and you're good to go mining Quantanium. So if you need any tips on Quantanium mining, check out my solo Quant Miners guide, which I'll also stick in the video description down below. So you want to stack up your jobs in the refinery and don't be in too much of a rush, use Dinix solventation and get loads of jobs going. You're going to want to get to at least sort of 2.2, 2.3 million credits worth of quant, maybe building in some contingency as well, just in case sort of you suffer a crash on one of your runs to drop it off. But your main goal here is that you want to be able to afford a Freelancer Max and an XL1 drive to make your future deliveries. So as it stands, the Max is in a real sweet spot with 120 SCU of cargo, which allows you to transport 4 full prospector jobs at once. But this advice is subject to change since we haven't seen how much the Connie Taurus is going to cost. So it's likely to come in below the 3.5 million credits of the Andromeda, and it hauls 174 SCU at a time. So I reserve the right to change that to recommend the Connie Taurus instead. So assuming that you don't have a cargo ship of your own, when you've got enough of those quant jobs processed and ready to haul with that bit of contingency built in for 30Ks or other game crashes, just rent yourself a base freelancer for 33,952. You can get one of those from any of the cargo decks, so like Everest Harbour, Port Tressler, Bikini Point. And you can use this to get those jobs cashed in at the TDD. It will only carry 2 full jobs at a time, so it might be a bit of a day of just sort of going back and forth to the TDD, but it'll be worth it to have your own max. So a prospector freelancer max combo is a great money maker, and a lot of folks will be happy to just stop there for mining and start to use this to buy all the other ships that they want to buy. But if you're a truly dedicated miner, then I'd probably suggest looking at the Argo Mole. So some people are going to disagree with me, but as a miner, the Mole is one of my favorite ships. Gives you that benefit of having 96 SCU of space for ore versus the 32 in the Prospector, so basically 3 Prospectors worth. And it's also really great in that it does allow you to get involved with some multi-crew. So even if you're a solo player, just bear in mind that there's still global chat. You can sort of put a shout out for other people to join you. And through quite a lot of testing of different mining setups, soloing the Mole is definitely possible, and in my experiments anyway, has been more profitable than using a prospector solo. You're also going to want to pair that with probably a bigger cargo ship, since you'll be doing a lot of bigger jobs. So the C2 Hercules for about 4.9 million is one of your options. That's the biggest cargo ship in game currently with 696 SCU of cargo. But also you might want to consider the Drake Caterpillar, which is 4.7 million. So this has a bit less cargo, but still decently over 500 SCU. And at the earlier stages of the game, you're probably not going to want the white knuckle ride that is sort of flying one of these absolutely full to the brim of Quantanium to the TDD. So alternatively, though, we can look to go down the combat route. So you can jump straight into bounty hunting if you've got anything in your hangar like an Avenger Titan or above in the combat line. But if you don't own something like that, then just rent an Avenger Titan from any one of the major LZs for 15,712 credits. I'm not a particularly great combat pilot, and even I can do sort of very high risk targets. sort of the one off the top level of bounty hunting with a stock rental Avenger Titan. So that is more than enough to get you building up your rep. Your primary goal, sort of getting started with bounty hunting again, is going to be building up your reputation with the Bounty Hunters Guild. Just make sure that all the time you take the call to arms mission from your mercenary tab, just so that you sort of maximize the payouts that you're getting. One of the things that did come out of quite a bit of experimentation we did on the bounties is to focus on the single target bounties that you get from Crusader Security and Hurston Dynamics. And don't worry too much about the North Rock group bounties. So the North Rock ones are the ones where you get 3 targets that you have to go and take out. But what we found is that for the time spent, the single target bounties move your reputation with the Bounty Hunter Guild up more than the North Rock ones with their 3. The North Rock bounties are great for cash though, so when you're looking to just make money out of bounty hunting, then the North Rock missions are probably the best stop. However, to get to the sort of scale the heights of bounty hunting, you're going to want to get through your certifications with the Bounty Hunter Guild as quickly as possible to get into the realms of the VHRTs and the ERTs, because that's where the big money really lies. So one quick tip to save yourself a little bit of time is to watch out where the Bounty Hunter Guild is sending you for your certifications. So if I'm cruising around Crusader doing my bounties, I don't want to be traveling over to Hurston to go and do my cert. So sometimes it makes more sense to just wait for the mission to refresh. And it might sort of be round Yeller as opposed to around one of the moons around Hurston. That'll really save you some time with a size 1 quantum drive. So if you're in a rental, probably I'd suggest your first stop is either your own Avenger Titan for 785,600 credits, or a light fighter. So my preferred pick at the moment would be the Gladius for 1,169,900 credits. But you do you. But considering you can kit your fighter out, then that allows you to then sort of do some full energy weapon builds, which can make chaining missions together a lot easier. So I prefer to go for all laser repeaters, and that's what the Gladius comes with as stock. So your next stop would probably be a heavier fighter or a bomber, just to vary up your style. So maybe consider bringing something like a Hurricane in alongside your light fighter, just to give yourself something to crew up in. With the capacitor changes, turrets are pretty OP, and it's easy enough to find someone just in global chat, just like with the mining, to come wreck ERTs with you. I think a really big purpose behind some of these things, like the capacitor changes, was to force players sort of into playing together for sort of common advantage. So I'd really encourage people to get out there and just at least try a bit of multi-crew. That said, though, if sort of blowing up hammerheads on your own from behind an asteroid sounds more like your thing, then maybe something like an Eclipse for about 3.5 million. So this will just give you a different style of combat vessel, and personally, it's one of my favourite looking ships in the game. Sort of both from an external, but also I think the cockpit on this ship looks absolutely amazing. If you're a real die-hard combat nut, then maybe stop next at a larger multi-crew ship like the Hammerhead. So that is going to set you back sort of north of 11 million credits, but this could be, one of the ships you maybe aim straight for. Getting a full crew of 7 people together might be a bit tricky just in all chat, but it's possible. And people are sort of keen to come and play on some of these big, large cruise ships. And also, to be fair, the Hammerhead is pretty nasty under player control with sort of just 3 or 4 of the turrets operational. So as long as you cover all your angles, but really at this point, it's up to you how you blow your funds. So that was just my starter for 10 on getting yourself back on your feet post-wipe. As ever, they're just my views, which have been built up through discussion and testing with orgmates and others out in the verse. But it's going to be up to you to tailor your plan based on your situation. I just hope that this has got some people thinking about sort of putting a strategy in place and made it maybe a bit less scary for some people who are maybe annoyed at having to sort of start from scratch. But please do let me know in the comments what route you're thinking of going down. And if you enjoyed this video and you think I've earned it, then consider hitting that subscribe button. It really helps me out. So at the time of recording, I think we're about 10 shy of ticking over the 3,000 mark, which to me is just absolutely insane. So a huge thank you to everyone who's liked, subscribed, watched a video, or dropped me a comment. It does really mean a lot. We've still got Digital Citizen Con to look forward to, and 3.15 is going to bring a whole lot of changes, particularly sort of around the medical side of things. And we've also got IAE and the end of year sales to look forward to. So I think the final quarter of this year is going to be a super busy one for all Star Citizen fans. So with all that said, I think all that's really left to do in 3.14 is hop into your favourite ship and take it out for a spin. You know, it's not going to be too long before you've got it back in your hangar. And while wipes might be a little bit annoying, they do give you an opportunity to just work out how to rebuild. So thanks very much, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.